Hello, everyone. I'm going to give it just a few seconds for everyone to come in from the waiting room and we will get started. Right. Welcome, everyone, to our June YPC Media webinar. My name is Katie Fitzgerald. I'm the Director of Marketing Operations here at YPC. If you've been on one of our webinars before, you know my whole spiel of please use the chat. We have time today to do a little bit of Q&A. So if anyone has any questions at all about anything I'm going over, please put it in the chat and we will have time for those. But today I really wanted to focus on the summer slump. I think a thing everyone deals with no matter what part of business that you're in. It seems that, Q2 ends, we hit Q3 and things just slow down entirely. I'm hoping that we caught a lot of you before summer vacations start. I know here in upstate New York, the kids are still in school, so it doesn't quite feel like summer, but we're going to pretend it is. So a few things that we'll go through today, but I really wanted to start with the biggest thing we hear, especially on the marketing side, right, is that people just stop buying. All my stats tank, things don't look good, and you kind of have that Q3 panic. And really today, my goal is to really talk you through how that is false. People do still buy in the summer months. However, they're buying differently. Our lead funnel really elongates. People take a lot longer to make decisions, but there's a lot we can do during this time frame to really set up for success and try to maximize these summer months for you. So what's actually happening? I want to really break it down at the consumer level, right? We know people are traveling, whether you as a business owner are the one traveling or it's the people that you're working on selling to and your leads that are traveling, right? Everyone really picks up through June, all the way through Labor Day in September. But people generally are spending more time outside. I know I try to be on my emails less as far as personal, but you're still on work. Schedules change, right, as we go through the summer months. Sometimes people have summer Fridays and hours change. We're going to get through all of that, but ultimately, people are delaying their decision making, right? They want to pay for their summer vacation. They want to go pay to do something fun on the weekends, or they're going to just say, hey, I'm going to wait till the kids are back into school and revisit this. I'm sure all of you have heard that a million times of let's revisit this in the fall. But on the upside, people are using their mobile devices more often. So while we're away from our desks or going through our emails or maybe even looking at personal finances or things like that, they are on their phones still. We're seeing the trend of that scroll time keeps going up no matter what time of year it is. So this is really the time to have more touch points, not fewer. We don't want to slow down any momentum that we're going to generate for the end of Q3 going into Q4. So I really want to look at everything, right? Because I think maybe there's a misconception of summer is slow. I should allocate more of my marketing budget specifically to the beginning of the year and then, of course, at holiday time, right? But let's really talk through the decision-making process through all of the different quarters. I broke them out here into different categories of seasons. So first being spring, where we're really coming out of. So during spring, consumers are auditing. We know the traditional spring cleaning, right? That goes for your home. It goes for your finances, maybe, but a lot of different things come through with their spring cleaning. They're prepping for summer. So scheduling, all of those things happen. So really my goal of this slide is to talk to you about how do I generate my content and my marketing to really line up to that decision-making process or where the consumers are at during these seasonalities. So during the springtime, it's important to provide educational content, FAQs, and really show how you can be, an extension of them as a consumer, depending on what industry you're in, right? As we go into summer, right, we know that summer is going to be a really high reach time, but we know that the decision time is slower. So making sure that we're showing up still, it's a huge time for awareness is going to be really important, but our content strategy may be more around that awareness. So we're going to post BTS means behind the scenes, community involvement, things that you're doing naturally because summer, picks up maybe some of your sponsorships, things you do out in the community are more prevalent, and it's important to show those things through all of your marketing channels. And I'm not just talking social media here, through email, your advertising that you do in terms of display or search. A lot of your content can change around these times to make sure that you are delivering that. But summer's a really great time to show that personal level content, right? People are craving human connection right now in the stage of AI. They don't know what's real. We don't know what's fake. So really being able to show you as the owner of your business or your team, things like that are going to be really great to help gain that awareness. Then come the fall, right? We're back to business. There's high intent, right? We're at the end of Q3 going into Q4. People are looking at their budgets, vacation's over, and we're really in business mode, right? For most people. So they're ready to make those decisions and really close the deal. So your content should really be about year-end planning, giving your strongest promotions, right? A lot of the time, if you are in product heavy versus service based, a lot of those deals can happen during this time. But I will say it's also a really great time to ask for referrals, right? You maybe are revisiting a lot of things with your clientele and making sure going into that. Now going into the winter months, right? It's usually the hottest time of year, right? Q4, we're in holiday mode. People are, trying to spend, get write-offs, do all of that stuff that they can in Q4, or working on their fresh start that's going to come in Q1. So wrapping up things, closing the loop on a lot of things is going to be really important, but also building trust with your clients, right? This is a time a lot of people jump ship. I know a lot of you are probably like in the insurance industry or professional services. It is a time a lot of people make changes for going into the next year that can affect the entire year. So really important to build that trust with your current clientele and also focus on driving the new leads. So your content ideas around this time of year are really a year in review, showing your success stories, educational, showing your predictions for next year, and then obviously that heavy promotion, right? We have to compete with holiday. People are buying lots of Christmas presents, and if you're in the service industry, it's hard to get them to focus on, hey, maybe you need to relook at your policy, or maybe you need to, buy that gift card for our service and things like that. So it can be really difficult as we go through all the different seasons. They all have their pros, they all have their cons, and we all feel different things based on what industry we're in. So where I typically see a lot of businesses lose momentum in the summer is that they just reduce their marketing spend overall, right? And of course, as you plan out your year, which you should, if you are a business, I don't care if you're making, $10,000 a year to $10 million a year, you should be really looking at your marketing budget at an annual basis. It shouldn't be, hey, this month I'm going to throw $1,000 here, or, maybe this time of year that. We should be looking at the entire thing. And of course, that does come with, hey, I'm going to have promos that go around holiday, and I'm going to want to boost those more than I do in the middle of summer when I want to also take off. So really what I'm talking about is that consistency. Having that plan is going to be important. So yes, reducing it may not be the best tactic, but of course you have to see how that plays into your overall plan. The second thing is posting less on social media. So as a business owner, you maybe want to take some summer Fridays, you want to take half days here and there, let your team out, do some fun things. Ultimately, that social media content falls to the bottom, right? If you don't have a strategy that's happening for you, you're going to just naturally post less. It's a big thing that just gets put to the bottom of the list, right? That's going to be the thing that falls off during the summer. But like I mentioned, this is a huge time for awareness. You need to be showing up as people are scrolling at night, they're wherever they're going, lots of travel happening that they're scrolling their phones. Third is slowing the follow-up process. So we know that you try to make phone calls. I think just this day and age anyway, it's impossible to get somebody on the phone, but it's double impossible in the summer, right? We're all out doing different things. We've got sports activities, outings, travel, all these things that really prevent us from answering the phone. So slowing that process is going to really influence the amount of leads, right? So not only slowing it, but the fourth one here, assuming no response means no interest. We can't just write off a lead when we don't get a response, especially in summer, because it could just be that it gets forgotten or you called it the wrong time. It's going to be having that follow-up happen at the right moment and almost in the moment. So we're going to get to more of that and some tips for that just in a little bit. So we really want to talk today about what is your opportunity. let's think the flip side. A lot of business owners are naturally going on vacation and doing things, and you, of course, have to slow up your marketing efforts, especially for a lot of you that are one-man shows, right? You are the service, or you are, or the business. You're, allowed to take a 2-week vacation or go to Europe or do anything. And of course, it makes sense to pause these things, right? If that's the case. But let's also think everyone's doing that, right? So they're pausing campaigns, they're reducing their budgets, maybe they are posting content less, and they're delaying marketing initiatives till the fall. So what we're seeing is less competition and more visibility for you, right? So cost per clicks can improve during the summer. I was really, before this, evaluating our Google Ads programs over the last few years. And actually throughout the entire year, some of our lowest cost per clicks were happening in July, meaning that it was the cheapest to get a click for, that in Google Ads, you're paying a click for a lead. So that's, really amazing to think about, that your lowest cost could be in July where people still are interested. Ad inventory becomes less competitive. So think on Meta, right? If people are pulling back campaigns, it's a great time to push your content out, maybe get a little lower cost and get that awareness. While conversions may not be the highest during these months on those types of campaigns, the awareness is there, right? So we're hoping that we're filling the top of the marketing funnel so that come Q3, Q4, later Q3 and 4 initiatives, we're ready to go and have the top of our funnel really ready to push them down into conversion. And then, of course, visibility increases. So if not as many people are posting, or especially in your industry, you might show up a little bit more in people's news feeds, and that fighting in the algorithm is a little bit different. So now I'm going to go through what is your summer marketing checklist. And I wanted to try to make this a little bit different. Of course, we could sit here and, a lot of you talk to your account managers on a regular basis. So you know that you should be updating your Google business profile, send them photos, get the reviews, those types of things. But I want to go a little bit deeper than that. So first is how to stay visible. Then we want to improve your follow-up process during the summer months, focusing on your existing customers. And then I want to talk a little bit about auditing your Q1 and Q2, because it's important to look back, to look ahead. So the first thing is stay visible. Consistency wins. I feel like if you have been on this webinar series before, I say it every webinar, consistency is always great in marketing, right? It's great for the algorithms. It's great for AI. They want to see consistent folks on there. So one of the first things I can say is posting on social media consistently. We're going to keep going through some social media. It's even in part of one of my predictions for the latter half of the year. But social media is proving to be more and more important in the stages of AI. Second, I have to throw it out there because our account managers here would be remiss if I didn't mention it, but updating your hours on Google Business Profile. We've given many, many examples of when someone doesn't. A lot of you probably have a personal story of you've gone to do a search, you see that a business is open, you go to said business and it's closed. And it's the most frustrating thing, and it's an easy way to earn a bad review, because if someone travels to your business and you are not open and it says that you were, they are most likely going to have the time in a minute to leave you a review because they took the trip there. So making sure you update that. This goes for if you are just going to do simple summer hours. A lot of businesses we see do summer Fridays, like I've mentioned. So if you're going to take half days, make sure that it's up to date. If you know you're going to be on a 2-week vacation, we can put that in there ahead of time to make sure that you're going to be closed up. And it doesn't just go for Google Business Profile. If you are on one of our listings programs as well, or you have listings somewhere, it's important to do that across the board. Again, consistency. Maintain or add to your existing plan. So maintaining the advertising budget that you laid out for this time is going to be super important. It's not a good time to get spooked and pull back budget. We also don't want to have gaps where the algorithm's learning your program, but this is a great time to add to that, get ahead of the curve going into the end of Q3 to have a lot of your plans out there running, worked out the kinks. The algorithm knows who you're trying to reach. This goes across Google and Meta really, or any platform. But having those things worked out so that you can be ready to go is really a great way to stay visible and stay on top of the game. The next thing is improving follow-up. So summer leads need a lot of nurturing, right? So you have somebody that comes through your funnel and then they don't answer. So this is a good time to look at automations. We've talked a lot about, how AI can be such a great tool to a lot of business owners. now's a great time to look at that, right? We maybe are seeing a little decrease in phone calls or customer service because people are out. It's a good time to add in, how do I get this follow-up process to be the best it can going into the end of the year? Making sure that the contact points that you have for your team maybe are a little increased during this time. Reaching out once a week may not be it. We need to call, we need to text, we need to have that real human follow-up to make sure that we do that. Focusing on the response time. So summer, there's limited windows to get on the phone with somebody or grab their attention. If they had the time to fill out your form, you're going to want to get in touch with them as quickly as possible, because they remember in that moment. 3 days later is not going to be good enough. They're already moved on, or they're already now on vacation, and they forgot that they even filled that out and that they were interested. They forget that ad. So this response time is very, very important in the summer, to have multiple times that you're following up and closing that window for how long it takes you to get in touch after you get that initial touch point. The next thing is focusing on existing clients. So your current customers may be a big opportunity for you. If it's something that, Q3, going into July, August here is going to be where you're not going to be super heavily focused on leads, or they're just not coming in as they can. This is a great time to flip to looking at your existing client base. How do you upgrade them? How do you upsell them? How do you ask them for referrals, or how do you ask them for reviews? These are all things that are going to benefit you come to the end of Q3, going into Q4. You could build, have 5 more leads just from talking to your one customer. So making sure you have that and generating those reviews. We know that reviews impact every aspect of new searches. So having those on your GBP, getting them to your website, all of those things are really important. We know Google's citing those in AI. They're looking at those reviews, how people reviewed your business, and looking to you as an expert, and looking at those as the first party information that goes there. Then strengthening your relationship, right? So I joke about this, but if you're going to be out, you're going to be at the golf course, make sure you're networking. It's important that, wherever you're going, make sure that you use that to your advantage. It should be top of mind, especially in those slower months, right? There's always work-life balance. I'm not here to be a therapist about any of that. But if you're going to be out, you're going to, go be a sponsor at different events, do that. Use those to your advantage, right? We want to make sure that we can utilize that and really gain some trust and build relationships with that existing client base, but also other partners and things like that. So then lastly here is really auditing Q1 and Q2. So a lot of people refer to this as like the mid-year reset, right? We don't want to wait till September to make changes. I know September for a lot of you can be a planning time, right? Where you want to have data at that planning time. Don't wait till September to then look back and say, I'm going to look at how everything was going. Now I'll make adjustments. Well, now it's the end of October and it's almost going to be too late. So if we are starting to audit that now, we can start making changes now that are going to impact and be, through the learning process, through all the kinks. All of that is going to be done by the time we get to September. And those are going to be full-fledged campaigns that are running and generating everything that you need from them. And it's, how do we just push the budget a little bit more, tweak a few things, and your campaigns are running smoothly. So don't wait till the fall, make those changes now so that but also pull all of your marketing statistics, right? This is probably something a CFO would be saying to you too. Make sure, every quarter that all of your finances are in order, but take a look at all of how much did you spend in the first 6 months of the year, right? What was it? Do you see the return on what you were doing? Is this a time to make adjustments, or do things need to be pumped up a little bit? How do we put more into what was working for the second half of the year? It's a really great time to do that. The second thing here is to look at your efficiency in your tech. So it's a great time to make an investment in, like I mentioned, automations, different lead funnels, looking at different landing pages, tweaking some of those things, or getting ready to enhance something. It's a good time to get started on some of those things. So you're not in a setup phase. You're not in the core months of, people trying to purchase and doing those. You don't want to be, trying to onboard or start up a new site when you're trying to get people to convert, right? And the number one thing is leads. The last thing is that you should be really aware of upcoming trends. So you need to look at what hurdles am I going to face in the coming months, right? I think with how many changes happen with AI on a daily basis at this point, there have been things that have happened that we didn't even predict back in January. And now you have to shift based on what's coming up. A lot of you are experiencing this with your business as a whole. As we go through the end of the year, economically, socially, there's just so many things that are looking. So you need to look at trends across the board. Of course, I'm going to say, yes, you need to look at marketing trends as well. What's working on social media? How are Google ads changing in the second half of the year? What are some different lead funnels that you need to look at? There's going to be a lot of different things that you'll need to keep up to date with. And you need to be prepared for those things. Some of them require more investment, right? And we know that it's proving harder and harder to show up in AI. So making sure that you have the funds and allocate and do those things correctly so that you're set up for success is going to be important. So auditing that and then also looking ahead is going to be really important. So the businesses, I had to put a fun slide in here, and I feel like dogs are a win always. But businesses that enter the fall with some momentum are the ones that stayed active during the summer. So we don't want to see you shut down these next 2 months and then, really be frantic come September, being like, I need to add on this. I need to start this. I need to start the Hello Nation program or that. Like, let's talk about it now and get you ready so that all of those kinks, all the setup is done before you go into the fall. And this goes for, every aspect, not just marketing, in my opinion. Okay, so I want to leave you all on some of my predictions going into Q3 and Q4 as they pertain to marketing, right? Where should your brain be focused and looking at? First-party data is going to be gold. I think people are really sick of AI bots, AI content, AI anything trying to sell for them. They are looking to have trusted people in their community that they can work with, especially the experts of those areas, right? Gone are the days of, they're really just trying to narrow down to the expert. You go on AI and you're searching for who's the best person. But I'm not going to go and scroll through multiple pages of Google anymore. I'm going to just ask who's the best, who's the expert. So you, as the expert, right, you want to have first party data. What I mean by this is that you have touch points of leads, you have emails, you have cell phone numbers of leads. You want to make sure that you market to them, including your customers, right? So that's the first party data. You can utilize those emails, all of, phone numbers, and put them into your marketing. You can upload custom lists into Meta, into Google, and really specifically market those individuals. So customizing some messaging, email marketing is seeing huge success right now because people are trying to, look through what AI is giving them and make decisions. And email is becoming a really successful way to get a conversion. My second prediction is that there's going to be more changes to the way people search, right? There have been a lot of announcements from Google that the traditional search bar, eventually may go away, and it's going to be, you're talking to Gemini on Google, and it could change the search and ads forever. And that's really where I was going with, you need to, be in the know for your industry with your marketing, have a really good partner that is staying on top of these things so that when these shifts happen and you know what you need to do to be ready to not have to suffer through any of the hardships that may come from that. But if Google search bar goes away, looking at those GBPs and that everything could change. So being prepared and staying on top of that is very, very important. And my last thing is always going to go back to social media because it's my passion, right? Optimize your social media for SEO, GEO, AEO, whatever other names people have made up or come out with. But using your social channels are additional forms for you, ways that you can be referenced, right? So if people are converting and only searching via AI, social media posts are being referenced in AI. We've seen Gemini reference Instagram posts. We now see that Meta is partnered with Google a little bit, and they're going to actually be able to cite those resources. So we're going to want to make sure that your social posts are posted with intention and your profiles are optimized as well, so that you're coming up for all those keywords, all those things. So all those SEO tactics that you use on your website now need to be used on your social programs, which is why it's getting harder and harder to DIY your social content. So there's many, many more that I could go and talk about forever, but we are at the end here. I'm going to look if there's any questions. I think I hit most everything that's in here. So if you haven't yet, please join our Facebook group. It's a great spot to ask questions, reach the entire YPC Media team. We try to post updates or a lot of the FAQs, things that we've seen, or if we need to get our clients' attention with some key updates, it's a great place to stay updated with everything marketing. So please feel free to join us there. If not, I'll give you a few minutes back to your day and your summer. Thank you guys for joining. We will have another webinar come in July, so make sure you look out for some of our content there. And that is all. So thank you all for joining.